Praise the Lord. First of all, sorry for being late. Got a call. Today I am been going through Genesis in a very slow manner, one of the study. And today I just want to touch on two aspects. Practically, on on how we actually end up sinning, or how do we fall into sin. And if you look at sin is something what Satan tempts us to fall into, which we all know, right? Which means that when Satan is tempting, there is a pattern. So Paul says a statement saying that in the New Testament, saying that we are not unaware of the schemes of the evil one. So I was looking at Genesis 3 especially to see that how did sin enter into the world for the very first time. And then the second question that I want to answer is that there itself, once they fell into sin, the Lord himself is talking to Adam and Eve and giving them information on how they could have protected themselves from sin. You understand? There are two things. One, for us to study together, how do they fall into sin, so that we can use that, we can understand that, and we can be careful about it. Second part is the Lord himself is giving them understanding or details on how they could have protected them from sin. Let me talk through a few things, right? See, we really don't know how long Adam and Eve was alive in the Garden of Eden till they fell into sin. Correct? Bible does not say that. Correct? Which means that before Genesis 3, there was no sin. All of us agree, right? Now, I want us to keep a child's heart, thinking that you're sitting in a Sunday school just to understand this, okay? So, which means that on Genesis 3, there was something that happened where sin came into the world, correct? Now, when sin came into this world, it is not 10 things that they did wrong. It is one thing that they did wrong at that point, correct? So understand the seriousness of it, okay? So they did everything right other than one thing wrong. Sometimes we take sin lightly, right? Where did it all start? Genesis chapter 3 verse 1, it says, when serpent was more crafty. First of all, understand that Satan is crafty. First of all, understand that he is actually very deceptive, and he's probably very intelligent, where don't try to get into a conversation with him thinking that you can actually convince the evil things of the world, right? So Bible himself calls Satan crafty. Where did it all start? It says that serpent said to the woman. Understand? Remember, very first thing, sin starts when you get into an engagement of a conversation with the evil one. Okay, that's where it all started. It all started because evil, or Satan, in the form of serpent, got into conversation with Eve. Correct? Now, I want us to understand, very first thing, what are the engagements that you get into? Okay? I want you to think slowly, right? Eve's conversation with Satan led to this. Be very careful. What are you engaging in? Who are you engaging with? The conversations. What are the See, 1 Timothy chapter 6 verse 20 also says that don't get into this kind of conversation. Correct? We think we need to talk to everybody. We think we need to answer every question. We think we need to convince everybody. No, be very careful. What is the conversations that you are engaging into? Now, what was the conversation about? It says, can it really be that God has said that, and you shall not eat of any tree in the garden? You understand? The conversation is about distortion. You think Satan did not know that they were not supposed to eat one tree? He knew it, right? But he asked any tree, correct? When you know the conversations are going about philosophy, theology, it is not for actual change. But you talk about, this thing is not happening because of this. Don't get into any engagement of that. There he started by saying, it all started this way, right? Did really God say that? The conversation goes on and on and on. It goes to the point where Satan is telling, oh, actually, God knows. Or actually, God knows you'll be wise. And it ended up by saying that, oh, you will be like God. You understand how the conversation went? It all started by saying, really, God said that? While having conversation, even with your husband and wife, it all started. Oh, it might be a very small thing it started. And then that engagement of the conversation goes on, on, on. One thing, also when you're engaging in conversation, answer if you are supposed to answer. Okay? The question that Eve got, the commandment was given to Adam. But Eve was asked the question and Eve ended up answering. Ideally, I don't know if Eve and Adam was together. Probably yes, because you can say that, Eve took and gave it, or did Satan wait for a chance to get Eve alone? I don't know any of those things. But Eve could have asked, or Adam could have protected Eve, or Eve could have said, okay, one thing, actually God told Adam, let me ask him. Okay? When you're engaging in a conversation, if you're not very sure, please don't answer. Be honest to tell, I don't know. Okay? Number one, what are you engaging in? Is it with your phone, WhatsApp, YouTube? Whatever you're engaging, those are the things which is going to lead you to sin. Second thing it says that the woman said to the serpent, you may eat of the trees of the garden, which is a true statement, except the fruit of the tree that is in the middle of the garden. You shall not eat it or touch it. God did not say that. God did not say not to touch the tree. At least it is not written in the Bible. Right? Now, why did Eve think of adding that? Sometimes we feel so obligated somehow that our answers are convincing. For that, we end up exaggerating things, adding things. Correct? Eve wanted to convince Satan, the serpent. One thing, this is a serious deal. Right? First of all, understand God does not need your help or my help to defend himself. Be honest. Be truthful. Keep your answers short when you're getting into conversations. Anything, listen, anything in excess will lead to sin. You heard? Anything in excess will lead to sin. That could be, it might be playing a sport, but in excess it can lead to sin. It might be YouTube. Can you believe what you're going to hear now? Even ministry in excess can lead to sin. You know that? You will cut everything else. You cut the time with your family, everything. You understand? Anything in excess, there's a balance. So make sure that you don't exaggerate, don't add, don't feel obligated that every question you need to have answer. Make sure that you'll be honest to tell, I do not know. You feel slightly tempted watching a TV show. Shut down, close it, walk away. Okay, don't exaggerate. The next thing, verse 4, it says, but the serpent said to the woman, you certainly will not die. God knows on the day you eat, your eyes will be open. You will be like God. You will know good and evil. What is the offer for sin? This is the most important thing. Okay? Your self gratification, your elevation by breaking the law of the Lord is the offer of every sin. You heard what I said? What is the offer? You look great. You look like God. You will know what is right and wrong. It's all about you. I think God's plan is all about you, but it is with God. Understand? God has a plan for you, right? So Satan wants to exchange your self gratification without God. Hearing what I'm saying? Let's think of marriage. God is the one who invented sex, right? But within the boundary of family, an institution of marriage, it's a sacred thing. Satan offers the same thing to you. Outside that boundary is called adultery, but it's the same thing. Self gratification, breaking the principles of God, is the offer of sin. Understand? So be very careful. Elevation of self without God is an offer to sin. Right? A promotion in office, tell a small lie. A small financial gain, a small compromise. When you know what is right, take a small step of small lie in tax. Who's losing? Government is losing it, but you get benefit out of it. All these things, remember, without the approval and the Lord getting pleased is the place where sin actually is born. So I said three things. One, engaging in wrong conversations, exaggerating to defend yourself. Number three, elevating yourself without the law of the Lord and doing it according to your will. Number four, this is the portion where it really was so striking. Verse 6, the woman saw the tree was good for food. It was delightful to look. The tree was desired to make you wise. Really, before Genesis 3, this tree did not look like that. What happened? The tree was still there, right? Eve was still looking at the tree. What was different? You know why? Eve's desire changed. Eve's perspective changed. The moment then she looked at something, it looked as an opportunity to sin. You understand what I'm saying? It was not the offer. It was a perspective that led her to that. Three things she said, it was good for food, provision, right? It says delight of what? It says delight to look, pride of life. It makes me great. Then says desire to make me wise and insightful or powerful. Provision, pride, and power becomes priority for you when your perspective changes. You understand? Let me tell you once more. Provision, pride, and power becomes more important to you or primary importance to you when your perspective is changing. Right? Think of an unholy man looking at a lady, a holy man looking at a lady, same lady. It's the same lady. But the unholy man might have lustful thoughts and want to sin, but the holy man does not have it. Why? It's the same lady, right? What is the difference? It's a perspective. The same tree before Genesis 3 was not attractive to sin. Now, all of a sudden, it is not just attractive, it is uncontrollable. I cannot stop it. I need to have it. They ended up having it. Right? I'm rushing through. Those are the four things. So, engagement, please write down these terms. Engaging in long conversation, exaggerating to defend yourself, elevation without God, breaking the law. The fourth one, enticed when your perspective changed. You are enticed into sin. You cannot live without it. Oh, I need to have it. Come what may, I need to have it. What is the solution? God came down. The first three questions in the Bible. First three questions in the Bible. Where, who, what? What are the three questions? Where, who, what? That's a way you can protect yourself from sin. God himself said. First question. Who sinned? Eve sinned. God asked whom? God asked Adam. So there is spiritual authority and order in family. I'm not touching that, but let me tell you. God asked Adam, where are you? You think God did not know where Adam was? God knew. Why didn't God ask? Adam's response is the answer to it. He said few things. I heard you. I was afraid of you. I was afraid of you. I was naked. I was naked. I hid myself. I hid myself. The four I. Understand? I heard you, Lord. I heard you. I was afraid, Lord. I was afraid. I feared you, Lord. I was naked and I was I hid myself. Now, remember very first thing. The first position of sin is examining where you are today. Okay? That's the way you protect yourself. Every day, it should be a practice for you to examine where you are. We read that across the Bible. Examine if you are staying in faith. Examine to see you're doing right. Check on yourself. Test every spirit. See, you daily crucify. It is a daily process. A holy living needs an intentional, careful examination on where you stand. Understand? Where are you? Your present tense. Your present tense. Your present tense. Now, what is it resulting to? Few things. Number one, Adam realized he is not where he's supposed to be. Correct? Where was he supposed to be? He should have been walking with God. He should not have spoken to Satan. He should not have eaten the fruit. He should not have hidden. He understood he's in the wrong place. That's called conviction. Examine yourself. As a strong believer, every day you need to examine yourself. As you grow, you examine others. Okay? Stop doing that and do more of examining yourself. That's where are you. Okay? That's Adam's answer. I wish Adam said, we sinned, we are feeling ashamed, but he was very, now nothing to do with Eve, right? I am naked, I am hiding, I was afraid. That's the plan of Satan. Satan wants to divide families. Satan wants you to make you feel that you are individuals. You're all alone. No accountability. No accountability at all. Number two, God asked two questions together. Who told you you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat? Number two, always understand when you know you have slipped, you need to ask yourself, what is the reason for your fall? Understand? Lord is asking, did you eat? You should know why you fell. Okay, I yelled at somebody. Okay. Oh, you need to check why. Oh, when I met him for the first time, the conversation was this. Always do an analysis on the reason why you fell. Once you know, Jesus himself took a man and said, please don't enter the city. Why? How many times? Don't go to that place anymore. Don't get into this conversation. God himself said, Psalms 1, don't walk in this path. Don't sit over here. Don't stand over here. What does it mean? You need to recognize the patterns in your life that is leading you to sin. Do you know what it is? See, you will never know what leads my habits in my life that leads me to sin, correct? And I will never know yours, but we know ours, right? Ask in the presence of God and find out what is the reasons for your fall. You got it? Always check on your lifestyle. Okay, today, Lord, I'm sitting in the presence of, it's one thing to tell God, I'm really sorry. It's one thing to examine, but more importantly, you need to check very clearly what is the reason for some company. When you meet with some people, after having a conversation, it might be a spiritual meeting. After the meeting, when you sit, or you ended up talking, going back home, you feel very bad. You see 2 times it is happening. Remember, don't be in that company anymore. It is not about the company. It is that's your trigger point. That's your vulnerability. You understand what I'm saying? It might not be vulnerable for somebody else. You need to identify that. You understand? It might be very simple things. But you need to understand what is your trigger point. You understand? It might be some shows in the TV. I don't know. It might be cricket. It might be football. I don't know. But it might not be the same trigger for 2 different people. You need to identify that. That was the second question. So first question, examine your position. Realize where you are. Realize where you're supposed to be. Number two, reason. Who are you listening to? Have you done that? The reason for your fall, lack of accountability. And now Adam's response was beautiful. God, you gave this lady to me, and this lady gave it to me. Now, moment you look at the reason, Adam's first initial reaction was blaming other people. Anytime anything asked to us, we are also like that. Satan tells us it's not you here, it's because of him. It's because of the situation, it is because of the weather, it is because of the situation, it is because of the church pastor. You blame everybody else. Interestingly, Adam's first person was God. Adam said, God, you are the one who gave this lady to me. Till now, God's commandment was there one body. Now it is all only me. God, you did it, and this lady did it. Right? When you look at the reason, taking accountability is the greatest breakthrough. When your children is breaking the law, as a father, take accountability, saying that God, it is me who was, or should have been acting on their behalf and protecting them and praying for them and guiding them. It's my failure. Do you understand? That is the place where God, have you remembered Daniel 9? God himself during the same time in Ezekiel said, there is no man as righteous as Daniel. But Daniel 9, when he's praying, Lord, we have sinned. Really? What did Daniel sin? What did Daniel sin? Taking accountability is the strongest thing. Last thing, let me quickly tell. God said, what is that you've done? What is this that you've done? What is that you've done? The greatest protection of sin is when you recognize the consequences of sin. You understand? God is looking at you and saying, Eve, do you know what you've done to yourself? If there is a serious plague and you are asked not to do this, you'll make sure that you don't do that because you know the consequences if you do that. Agreed? Right? You know how to avoid things, right? You like playing so much, but in the ground there are some 3, 4 snakes. Will you go there? No, you won't. Because you know the consequences, right? Same way, once you know the consequences of sin, next time when sin is coming in a sweet covered packet, you will say, no, thank you, I don't want it. So 3 ways in which you can protect. Realize where you are, the reason for your fall, and recognize the consequences of your sin. God himself is telling the first 3 questions God asked. That's the way you protect yourself from sin. 4 stages in which they felt. They engaged into conversation. They exaggerated their words. Elevation without God, and enticed because their perception may changed. Read Genesis 1 to 13 multiple times and realize Satan's strategy hasn't changed. It is always the same offer. It is the same thing. Nothing has changed. And God's question also hasn't changed. It's the same questions. This is the same way you can protect. We are made in the image of God. God bless you.